Happy Kentucky Oaks Day, everyone. Thanks for joining us on the Friday edition of Talking Horses. Acacia, come on alongside Paul Verderosa. We have an ongoing drip onto the desk, so we're off to a great start here. But luckily, Paul, nicer weather in New York, unfortunately, than in Kentucky with some of the rain. But who do you like in the Oaks today?
I'm going with Where's My Ring?
Yeah, I like her.
No,
Gazelle winner?
What?
Gazelle winner?
Yeah, for sure. Ran big, ran huge. If you're going to break your maiden, break it in style.
Yeah.
She did that for sure. And now that Jose Lascano knows her a little bit, got a nice cozy inside post in there. Just FYI, though, I mean, she looks amazing this week out on track.
I've been really impressed with how she's training coming into this race. And, you know, I think, too, like, I know that she was so good as a 2-year-old, but she was always kind of that big, leggy type that you just had to look at and think she's going to be better as a 3-year-old, too.
Yeah, when you think about, too, even the race that she came out of, she totally needed that race. She got shuffled a little bit in that race, too. She's going to be tighter for it. And, I mean, when you watch her this week, she's just feeling herself, the way she's bouncing around, the way she's puffed up, and the way she's strutting her stuff out there. But I'm going to take a shot with Where's My Ring and see if I can get a little bit of a price home in that race.
The 3-year-old fillies strutting their stuff a little bit later on today, the Kentucky Oaks. We have some business to get you, and if you're not signed up with Naira Bets, this is the perfect weekend to do so. You can sign up, get started, get a $25 free bet for the Kentucky Derby, and a $200 sign-up bonus. There's a nice look at Resilience Wood Memorial winner. See how our Wood and Gazelle winners do in Kentucky this weekend. Use promo code Derby25. Sign up, get started at NairaBets.com for your $25 free bet and $200 sign-up bonus. We've also got plenty of information for you in track stats. You can be smarter, win bigger, bet all the action weekly at Aqueduct. Plenty of track trends, statistics, and betting insights. Check that out over at NairaBets.com. A middle pick for today. Very important. Can't forget about that. Taking place Belmont at the Big A. On this afternoon's card, there's also a great promo here. If you bet Belmont at the Big A and Churchill Downs, bet $150 each at Belmont at the Big A and Churchill, you get a $30 bonus, win or lose. Be sure to opt in at Naira Bets, perfect for the Kentucky Oaks and Kentucky Derby this weekend. And cross-country pick 5 coming up today as well. Starts at about 4:28. Plenty of fun stakes action in there as well. It's between Belmont and Oaklawn. We have the Westchester Stakes at Belmont at the Big A a little bit later, and the Natural State Breeders' Stakes a little bit later at Oaklawn Park as well. And finally, America's Day at the Races. The coverage kicks off at 1 p.m. on FS2. Paul and I will start things out on the set closing weekend at Oaklawn Park as well. So we'll get right into it, starting off with the first race, Paul. And we do have several horses coming out of that April 20th race, which is won by Ghostly Girl. Obviously, she was able to get out of the condition. Everybody else coming out of there going to try and get the second win of their career. And here's, we'll take a look at Keep It Sexy, Love Like Crazy, and Army of Thoughts coming out of this race. Army of Thoughts was the one that did show the speed before fading to 4th that day.
It kind of got really hustled out of the gate, too, after kind of breaking back a little bit with a slow start. But, I mean, honestly, Abno Boca Chica's just got one job, bro. Just go to the front. Let this horse roll, get out of the gate clean, and just put them to bed on the front end in here, because that's the way this horse is going to win today.
Has the speed. That was my thought process with this one coming out of that race. I mean, Keep It Sexy was the one that did end up getting second that day. Love Like Crazy, who just didn't really kind of have quite enough, but she kind of re-engaged when she had Keep It Sexy next to her.
Yeah, but I kind of feel like I've seen, like, Love Like Crazy now, and it's just, I don't know. For me, I thought Keep It Sexy actually was the horse you kind of wanted, and that's why we both have the horse second, because I just feel like the horse got taken up a bit in there and then was wide and then got pushed out even wider and kind of ran the better race at the end of the day. I mean, honestly, it was kind of tough once I got past the 4 to kind of be like, all right, where am I going in here? Because I think we've seen enough of some of these horses that are in here.
I know. I'm totally in agreement. So we're going to try to wire the field in race number 1. Kind of a key scratch with Affalata, who seemed to kind of be a slight alternative to some of the horses coming out of that race.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens in race number 1. Second race, I was disappointed because I liked Lady Mine in here. So I do scratch into Roman Grace, and we'll take a look at her last race at Keeneland where she wins. Now, I don't know, Paul, if I completely trust her, but that said, I mean, she's been good in her 2 races, and she does have speed, which she showed last time at Keeneland.
You know, I mean, the race wasn't bad as a whole that she's coming out of. I mean, you look at, you know, the Phil Bauer firster that took money in there, and then you also bedazzle him, you know, for Bill Mott. And I don't know. I just feel like, again, with this horse, we've seen this story before. They ship out of town, they ran well. And to be honest with you, the first race wasn't that bad either. You know, upon debut, kind of got stuck behind. Yeah, catching heat in there. So for me, at the end of the day, I was a Lady Mine fan, so I did have Roman Grace in here third, moved her up to second in here after that. But I got a big thing for the 5 timely conquest.
Yeah, I was going to ask, what's the story here?
You know what I should have done, and it's funny too, because when we were talking replays, that's one replay that I wish I would have shown was the replay from Timely Conquest last start, because this horse got completely wiped out at the start last time, and now today draws better outside, does have some back races. Again, I get it, was able to control some of those races in certain circumstances, but from the outside post in here, this is another horse that I think Trevor McCarthy just needs to kind of either go or sit off of Roman Grace in here. And
I was going to say, are you worried, because she does seem to run her best races when she's forward, are you worried with the presence of Roman Grace, who obviously was able to use that speed for a nice win last out?
I'm wondering if they could just sit right off of this horse. And at the end of the day, too, looking at, I don't think last year she was fast enough to be with Roman Grace. I don't know about the last 2 starts. I think it all depends on how you feel the track was playing and the off track and stuff like that. But on a fast track, she's going to be setting up shop either on the pace or right outside Roman Grace.
She just never looked comfortable last time out either after that start. Seems that she struggles when taking out of her comfort zone. The big question is, what version of Dame Cinco are we going to get today? Because she is just, I mean, recently she just has not been easy to predict. It's either a very good race or a very bad race.
You know, I look at that start and it was fast 2 back, and it just seems like an outlier figure, and she's kind of had the benefit now of being down inside the whole way, and the rail was kind of decent that day. I don't know. I mean, I guess on her best day, she does kind of figure in here, especially if you do see Roman Grace not get back to that race or a Timely Conquest and then hook up at some point. Most logical horse, obviously, to pick up those 2.
See what she does coming on late. Dame Cinco trying to turn things around. Stakes action in the 3rd race. Early stake on the card in the Grade 3 Sheepshead Bay, 1 3/8 on the turf. And let's start things off with the replay of the Orchid between McCulloch and La Mejana, finishing 1st and 3rd down at Gulfstream that day. And I started off at the beginning of the race, and McCulloch breaks very sharply for her. And La Mejana is down on the inside, her first race stateside, and she's going to get checked back pretty significantly early in the race, Paul. Right there where she has to steady. I don't know how much that took her out as far as she finished well late, but for your U.S. debut, to be down on the rail at Gulfstream checked back like that, just not a comfortable spot to be in.
No, and you can see, too, the way she kind of tossed her head about, too, as Joel was bringing her back and trying to get her back to the back of the pack in there. And I thought it was significant enough in this race to kind of give her a shot in here, you know, against McCulloch. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, I love that Erod just lets McCulloch do her own thing, you know, just lets her get into a rhythm, lets her take him where she wants to be, and then finishes races off strong. So, listen, she's the horse to beat in here. I'm just going to take a little shot against her today with the second-time starter in this country.
McCulloch, so you're going against McCulloch in this spot?
Yeah. I'm going to go with the 5 in here. I just want to give this horse one more shot on the square with a clean break and see what she can do, because her form was not bad overseas. She's run good races, and I just feel like the check was enough to get her in a little bit of trouble. And at Gulfstream, it was tighter turns, everything going on down there, and it was a compact group again, and she was on the inside tossing her head a little bit. Yeah, so I'd like to see her a little bit more comfortable today and get a clean break and see what she can do. But make no mistake about it, I mean, McCulloch's the horse to beat.
McCulloch's been a gem of consistency. Didn't run well at all in the British Cup Filly and Mare Turf, but besides that, she really overall has run very good races. You look back at the Flower Bowl, which was 2 starts back for Parnack, where she was able to steal things on the front end. And then we've seen that in short fields moving forward. Chad Brown has often entered another horse this time it's Royalty Interest, who has plenty of early speed. It was Idea Generation in the Wea to ensure you would think that there is going to be an honest pace in here.
Yeah, well, in Idea Generation's case, that horse actually, for 3/4 of the race, looked like that horse was going to win the race
I know,
that
she
day.
almost held on.
So, I mean, I guess with the rail draw today, too, Dylan, you'd think they're going to establish some position up front, especially if the 3 doesn't go in there. But, I mean, I just wonder how fast they're going to end up going at the end of the day in here. But obviously, Parnak's better races if this horse is forward and more aggressive with Dylan up.
And Dylan did a great job in that Flower Bowl, getting her to relax in the front end. What do you do with a horse like Star Fortress? I think it's clear that 104 by her speed figure in the Cardinal is not really an accurate indication. But she just, I mean, last time in the Jenny Wiley, she just never really looked comfortable to me. She kind of made an early move. She was on her left lead. She never switched leads even when she won that Cardinal. She just never really seems like she's been able to get into a comfortable stride recently.
Yeah, it's like she had issues a few starts back, 3 back, the slow pace 2 back hurt her. The Jenny Wiley's a tough ass. Today,
also
now
going shorter last time.
You know, she's going to get the distance today that she wants, but now she's running into McCulloch, and you want to give the 5-horse maybe another chance with a clean break. Yeah. It's a tough ask for her to do that. I'm not her biggest fan because I feel like she got like the absolute dream trip winning that Cardinal that day. Yeah. So sat back and bided her time and just rolled on by. Maybe she gets to do the same thing today, but I just don't know if it's going to be a pace dynamic for her that she's going to care for.
Yeah, she's a head scratcher. If she can ever run back to that race, she'd be very dangerous in this division. Fun rendition of the Sheep's Head Bay with some talented mares in there. Turning on to race number 4. 6.5 furlong starter allowance. And we'll start things off with St. Benedict's Prep, who you do have on top. Won last time out at Keeneland and always dangerous first off the claim for Linda Rice.
Yeah, I just kind of sucked out here and just kind of ended up taking the favor because the more I went through the race, the more I looked around and I just was not enamored with anyone else in here. And, you know, we've seen multiple success stories with this, like Linda Rice bringing horses in from the Kentucky circuit and doing well. Ain't Broke comes to mind. That's for sure, you know. But, I mean, this horse ran well last time out, and I think today has a nice outside draw. Could be tactically placed in here. And with Kendrick up, I think this horse isn't going to be too far out of it. I just feel like when you look at the rest of this field, there really wasn't anybody else that, I wanted to give that much of a shot to. I feel like Dazzy last time, you know, fought back on a track inside that may have been a little bit kinder.
Last time was the time,
you know,
for Dazzy.
Yeah, and First Class Cat, I mean, did come back and win, but I don't know. I couldn't make a case for anybody else in here that I really wanted to, like, latch onto, so might as well get the new face.
That's fair. Yeah, coming in, or I should say coming back to the Niagara circuit, St. Benedict's Prep. So coming back to where she started, which she never kind of really materialized when with Chad Brown, but maybe she's just going to be in the right spot here. Let me tell you, she definitely found a soft starter allowance to come back to New York for. So I'm taking a little shot with Status Seeker. I don't particularly love her. I don't really love her last race. She was a little bit flat, but she gets the blinkers on and she's second off the layoff for Rudy Rodriguez. And the thing with her is that St. Benedict's Prep is going to be such a short price in this spot because she won last time out. You've got the Linda Rice, like you said, claiming from Kentucky angle. And with Status Seeker, she's only run twice already. And I remember I wrote in my notes last time that she'd come back and look stronger as a 3-year-old, and I'm just hoping that she really got a lot out of that race. And I think with the blinkers on too, Romero Mirage has been riding aggressively and riding really well. I think he's going to put her in a good forward position, and I just am hoping that she's going to be a better price in this spot, and maybe her inexperience will be a negative, but I'm hoping it's a positive. She doesn't have as many excuses yet. Yeah,
she's kind of one that if you're looking for the one that has the least amount of chances, you would gravitate to it. And honestly, the trouble she had at the start or after the break wasn't that significant, but the stretch one was.
I didn't think so either.
The stretch one was, though. I mean, that definitely cost her a little bit. And as you said, with the blinkers on today, Romero's been aggressive and riding well. You would think that this horse is going to be forward in here. And if she's grown up and St. Benedict's Prep comes back to New York and remembers the old New York St. Benedict's Prep, then, you know, I mean, she's not without a chance in here. I just found it hard to just get past the 7 in here.
Fair enough. Well, that's the first 4. We'll take a quick break, come back and talk about the Lead Pick 5.
Born in the foothills of the Adirondacks over 150 years ago, the Saratoga brand has become synonymous with quality. carefully crafted spring water. Each stunning blue glass bottle is created with the same attention to detail and care that has been the Saratoga hallmark for generations. So open a bottle, take a sip, and savor the Saratoga experience. Saratoga, an American classic that's always in good taste. Make every day exquisite.
We're back on Talking Horses, presented by Saratoga Water, Acacia, and Paul. Gonna dive into the second half of the card and some fun turf races too.
Yes.
It's been so fun having turf racing back in New
Getting
York.
full fields back.
Yeah.
And seeing competitive fields as well. So I think that that's important too.
Yeah, and some new faces that we haven't seen in a
Yes,
while. They're
yeah.
on the shelf over the winter. On the turf for the fifth race, the New York bred allowance, going a mile in 16th. And let's start things off with the horse that you have on top with Sonic Speed. We'll take a look at his race 2 starts back at Gulfstream with a nice win in Sarto Allowance Company.
I mean, I thought that was a solid field for the level last time out that this horse took on. I mean, you look at a horse like Smithwick Spice, who's been first or second in 20 of 42 career starts, and Cadet Corps 9 for 26, and Tatanka 7 for 20 came back to win as well in there. And I just thought that even though that this horse, has won mainly against, claimers, unless you count the starter allowance right with us back, I thought that this horse was going to fall into a good trip in here. Had a nice mid-pack post in here, has run well before, and has races to go back to that I think fit in here.
It certainly does, and has strong figures. Did very well down in South Florida as well. Those 3 races down at Gulfstream were very strong. My one question with him, and I agree, I mean, he's obviously in great form right now. My one question is, coming back into these New York bred allowance fields, he needs to not be too far back.
Yeah.
Because you look back at when he was at this level, last summer, he was really kind of taken out of it, and when he's too far back and just left with too much to do, he doesn't really get that kind of trip. Recently, he's been really in kind of the catbird seat, so to speak, and I think that that's really bode well for him, even like you said last time, facing tougher.
Yeah, and the good news for him in this race, too, is the 1, the 2, and the 4 are not exactly fast out of the gate. So he's got the 3 inside of him, which does have some positional speed, so hopefully he can kind of get over and find a nice, good, 2-hole trip being on the inside of the course.
Well, a horse that I think should be forward is the 7 Laurel Valley, and I'm going to take him. I know that they tried him sprinting on the dirt last time. I think it was just to get a race into him. Yeah. I mean, this horse, he is a turf horse. He wants to go this far on the turf. This is what he wants. So he's getting back to that today. He had a race off the bench last time out, which I think should bode well. He actually didn't run that badly that day either, doing what I really don't think he wants to do.
No, and in the fields he was in, he took money that day too. Yeah. I mean, it did totally smell of a prep race, honestly, than getting back to the grass. But I mean, against Little Luca, who wired the field that day, I mean, this horse did not run all that terribly, all things considered.
So should be forward. I think just getting back to his preferred surface, and he's a little bit dirtied up too. He had that race, a New York bred allowance on the dirt. Then he was on a Hill Prince prior to that too. I just think this is the right spot for him. The 6 left him behind. You don't have this horse. I had a little interest in this horse, Paul, getting back to the turf, and wanted to show his race back in November, where I know he was 37-1 that day, but that race has actually turned out to be a pretty good group. I mean, Be of Courage, we know is pretty consistent. We know what he is down on the rail with the white cap. Is left him behind. He's really going to take the worst of it as far as having nowhere to go and then getting steadied in the stretch. But I'm very intrigued by him getting back to a distance on the turf.
Yeah, that race actually came up pretty quick, considering all things considered the way the race was run that day. Yeah. But I just, the lack of early speed, there's a bunch in here that just don't have any early speed. And I just kind of feel like they're going to all be in a pack at the back of the pack, and then when the real racing begins, we're going to see what happens, and usually some of them get in trouble in here. It's not that I think this horse was like my 5th pick in here, so it's not that I was completely against it. It was the dreaded 5th pick in here, but like you said, it'll be interesting to see getting this horse back on the grass and getting this horse going a longer bit of distance.
I'm going to hope that he's closing late. You hope Whistler's Honor is closing late.
Yeah, Whistler's Honor's case, I mean, that horse had no chance last time. I almost feel, again, too, that was like a prep race, and, but now it's been a couple of months since that last race, too, so you wonder what happened and why they weren't back on the grass either. But The last grass race up here that the horse ran, I mean, there were 2 bombs that ran 1-2 in there, and that horse had no shot being wide, or 3 or 4 wide, then wider even so going into the stretch. So I'll try and get Whistler's Honor home a little bit too. Yeah.
Race 6 is not a stakes race, but you have
Could
some
be.
stakes quality
It could
horses
be.
in here. Let's start off with Repo Rocks winning the Westchester last year. We're going to take a look at 2 horses in this field that won graded stakes this weekend last year.
Yeah.
Repo Rocks being the first of them. Then he tried them at mile. I mean, he's running against White Abario's and Cody's Wish that day. He was on a tear last year. Now he's making his first start for Rick Dutrow. What do you get today? That's the big question.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. If you look at Works, this horse has
Yeah.
really stepped up his game in the last few starts. And Rick had said, I had read that he was been taking his time with him, and it's been nice to see this horse progress and kind of get back to where he was at last year. Listen, if the good Repo Rock shows up today, he's going to be a handful. I also like that Andrew Wolfson's back on the horse today, too, because they had great success last year. And I know, and listen, it's no knock on Ruben Silvera because Ruben rode him well in the Westchester, and they just made a change and things happened. But, for me, Andrew knows this horse well, and I think that this is going to be a good spot, a good jumping point anyway for Repo Rocks. And the good Repo Rocks can win here today, and it's a pretty tough field.
It is. I mean, coming back, he hasn't run since June. He's been on the shelf, and he's making his first start for the barn. But, I mean, this is a horse that, like you said, if he's good and shows up with those big races. And then you have General Jim. What do you do with General Jim? We're also going back to last year, Kentucky Derby weekend at Churchill, when he won the Pat Day Mile with a 100 Beyer speed figure. This was such a good stretch run, too, between him and Fort Bragg. He disappointed in the Woody Stevens. Then they tried him on turf. And now it seems it's kind of back to basics for General Jim.
I feel like, though, the Woody Stevens race, I kind of just want to give him a little pass. I know he wasn't that good in that race, but I just feel like he wasn't at his best. He wasn't close like he normally was close up that you see him in those races. And they tried the turf again where he's run well on the turf prior, but the Hall of Fame was a little too much. I think the biggest concern for him is the layoff.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to ask the same question you're going to ask about Repo Rocks. Can these horses come back and regain their form first off the bench and run against each other? But, I mean, if we see the good General Jim, he can compete in here. 4 Works, I don't know if that's too little or too much, or not enough, in some case. So it'll be an interesting matchup against a couple of horses that quite a few of these horses are coming off of some short layoffs that are in here.
Yeah,
so,
and then you've got a Creative who was second last time out behind Win It, who we're going to see in the Westchester later. I don't like that he didn't break well again last time out, which happened to him down in Florida as well, and in the Cigar Mile. I don't like that his last 3 races he's not gotten out of the gate well.
I wasn't crazy that he kind of lugged in last time and just did not run
He
well.
did.
And listen, Win It, broke well, and we got the good Win It last time out. It broke well, and the talent's always there. I don't know. Maker's Candy didn't run all that well coming back. I don't know. I feel like I just did not like the race from him last time at all, and he just was not a use for me. I have him 4th in here. I just think that he's, I just did not like the last start. I think maybe he's going in the wrong direction, honestly.
Yeah, he's got some things to prove today for sure. I mean, those races last year, you look back, he was second in the Amsterdam behind Gunite. Can he ever run back to that race?
I'm a little dubious that he can get back to some of that form.
We might have seen the best of him already.
I just feel like last time he had a good enough setup to be able to do it, and he just was flat. And I just didn't care for the lug. I thought he ran bad last time.
Yeah, disappointing effort off that race. Fun maiden special weight in the 7th race, sprinting on the turf. And start things off with Feltrinelli, who has only had 1 turf race so far. That was back in September. But we've seen George Weaver. He has these horses ready to roll off the bench. I think in particular, the turf sprinters.
Yeah, and I mean, when you look at this horse, I think it's interesting that they're keeping him, on the turf.
Yeah, he ran very well on the dirt,
He ran very
too.
well on the dirt, too, and when you look at Apollo 10, who won this race that we're seeing here, he came back and he wired a 5-furlong turf sprint, Gulfstream, last week, so there's that. Irish Gent kind of ran off a bit in front, too, so kind of left him uncovered out there, in the 2 paths. So we'll be forward again from the inside here today. He's logical in here. I have him 2nd. I have no real knocks on him. I just got a little goofy.
Tell me about Frostel.
So Frostel, that frosted his daddy. So
It's very clever.
Yeah, who's your daddy? So 11% turf sprinter, for Frosted, they're getting numbers. And he does have, when you look at his siblings, I mean, Race Kane, he's a half brother. I mean, we obviously know what Race Kane did in the Gotham, but there's some turf runners too, and some synth runners when you go back in the family. So I like the last workout, too. Bullet workout going 5 furlongs in here. Maybe he's going to have a little bit of speed coming out of the gate today. We'll see what Eric Cancel does with him today. And in a field where I had my questions with Feltrinelli and the rail, and if there was any other speed in here, and the horse like Side Eye, who you have second, and I have third in here. And then, you know, you always have Wesley Ward with a first-time starter, and I was kind of like, well, that horse is going to take money anyway. I figured I'd give a shot to a horse that might fly under the radar a little bit with a little bit of pedigree and some siblings behind.
Yeah, it's interesting. I felt that the first-time starters were such wild cards in here because, in particular, the Wesley Ward one with Final Edition, who is by Uncle Mo. On the bottom side, it's a much more European pedigree. The dam was a turf sprinter in Europe, like 6-7 furlongs, but the second dam was very good going long on the turf as well. And this one, starting as a 3-year-old, has been working at Keeneland, starting here. It's going to take money. I don't know. I felt like this was a horse that I was a little dubious of.
It's a weird small sample size, but I found a stat for Wesley. He's 0 for 5 with maiden first-time starters sprinting on the turf here at NYRA the last 5 years. 3 of them were maiden special weights, so he's 0 for 3 with maiden special weights, 2 in the money. It's not a huge sample size, but it's funny because you think of Wesley running so many first-time starters here.
2-year-olds.
Yeah, but 2-year-olds, not as far as 3-year-olds. So I just I put the horse 4th in here. I could use any one of the 4 that I have up there. It's a win. I think it's a fun race. I think you can go a few different places. And a horse I guess we're both kind of against with firsters was the 3 for Chad Brown.
I know. I put this horse 3rd, but it's tricky because there's no turf pedigree.
Yeah.
Really. The dam was 0 for 6 on the grass, but she did finish twice on the turf. But it's much more of a dirt pedigree. This horse is half to Brigadier General, who wants to go long on dirt. Compelling Smile, who's a dirt sprinter. No siblings, one on the grass. So we'll see. I think that as far as this race, check the board to see how the first-time starters are taking money. And maybe if you like one, this will be a nice place to get a price.
Yeah, and that's why I'm going to settle on Frostel.
I like it. The Westchester is race 8, grade 3, going a mile. And we have the same couple of horses in here. Let's start things off with Post Time winning the Carter. Paul, I don't have any problem with this horse stretching out to the mile. I think that race is even way better last time out than it looks, given that drifting that we've discussed quite a bit with Super Chow and him having to go around that horse and still being able to get up and win.
Yeah, I think my buddy Sheldon Russell said something along the lines of that ride saved his marriage. That he was able to be able to
well,
get
the horse saved his marriage by getting up in time.
Oh, come on. No, you got to give Sheldon a little bit of credit. See, you know, you got to, listen, when the jockey wins, they're the hero. When they lose, they're the goat.
Exactly,
so, you know,
exactly.
Listen, you got to give a little credit there. I joke, but this is a really good horse. This is a really good horse here. And what I really like about this horse is this horse shipped in here well. This horse ran a good race last time out. The mile should be fine for this horse. I guess you just have to let him get into a rhythm and make one run and just kind of settle. And I read Brittany Russell talking about that he just wants to get into a nice little,
type.
He just wants to be calm and get into a nice little rhythm and let him run his race. So, I mean, the pace should be okay for him because he's not going to be launching from way too far back in here. And I think he should get a better trip than he went last time because I don't think there's anybody in here that's going to drift out about 5 paths on him when he makes his run. So.
I know he's certainly hoping not.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember Sheldon Russell saying last time that he expected that he could kind of beat Super Chow to it and get by him, and was not quite able to, but still able to get up in time. And this is a very good horse, though he is a little bit quirky. Quirky is a good way to describe your top pick as well. Charge It, and we'll take a look at a big win from him too. I mean, this is a horse that Paul, when he runs a race like this, like he did in the Suburban, or I mean even the Dwyer a couple of years ago, he's unbelievably talented. It's just we don't get to see this there very often.
No, and you know, sometimes it's not so much a mental thing with him sometimes. I think it's more of just some of the fields he's run against too. When you see he's kept a steady diet of some of the best horses that were out there last year. And I don't think that there's any major killers in here other than Post Time, the way Post Time's going and has the recency. So I think he's got a nice outside draw. I think Kendrick can be a little bit aggressive with him, which is what Charge It likes to do sometimes and strut his stuff when he's able to get to the front end and be able to take that lead and be aggressive. So it's a good jumping point for him in here. And I think he's going to be second choice in here. So I'd like to give him a shot. I have I mean, the 4s and 7s for me were where it was at in this race.
Let's take a look at the last race for Win It, because we did talk about him in the Accretive earlier. I had him 3rd, kind of thinking Maybe. I wish Manny Franco had stayed aboard. I get that Manny has to ride Dr. Ardito, and he's a quirky horse too, but I felt Manny really fit win it, and I'm sure Romero will do a good job with him here too, but this is a horse that's very tricky to ride. He's going to swap his leads. He likes to drift. He tends to sit back in the starting gate. He needs to break well under Romero today.
Yeah, I think Romero's done a good job of getting horses out of the gate. We've seen it throughout the winter. When it's going to be your biggest challenge, bro. It's going to be your biggest challenge
Good luck, Romero.
that you have, this meet. But I will say this, though. I mean, when he breaks well and when he does run those races, I mean, you can't argue. Talent's there.
Yeah.
I mean, he can run. He can compete. He did that last time. We've seen him be quirky. What win it are we going to get today from a two-post? You know, and that's the biggest question mark with him, because when he does run well, he can put up numbers that are competitive with this group. But again, I just wonder if it's going to be a little bit too much with horses in here at like post time and charge it, and even to some extent the 3 and the 5.
Got some real class horses who've been facing tough competition to do battle with in that Westchester. One more race on the card. We're on the turf. New York bred at maiden special weight for the 3-year-olds and upward. And we'll start with English Castle to the outside, because this is definitely kind of the trip horse of the race, Paul. I know he's probably been added to some people's stables after this effort last fall. Gets shut off at the break, then squeezed back, and finishes a bit in there to be 4th.
Yeah, and despite all that trouble he had, he only got beat really 2 lanes for second. When you look at it, he just wants to go in here. I mean, I think, you know, it was a good, valuable learning lesson for this horse, 100%. And I think today, too, for that experience, and I know this horse is coming off the layoff today, but you know what? Christoph's been going well. The horse has been running well, coming off the layoffs and stuff. And getting Dylan aboard is not going to hurt either today. The post may hurt a little bit in here. But other than that, I think for the experience, I think this horse will be better off.
Yep, definitely has to overcome the outside post and work out a trip in here, finishing 4th on debut back in November. And it's an intriguing field as well. You have some horses trying the turf. You have some horses getting back to the turf. You go with the recency, though, with My Life Story.
Well, for the life of me, I can't understand why Joe Bravo was in a full-out send. I mean, when you watch this horse, like rushing this horse to the backside, just rolling. I mean, literally rolling. Listen, I know this horse got off a little bit slow. Like, I'm not going to say it didn't. And then what if it's this ridiculous run to get within like 3/4 of the lead, then gets bumped and ends up being wide.
It's an odd race.
Yeah. I want to give this horse another shot. And Princetown was a Bill Mott surface switch horse that ran okay, and the second place horse, you know, is done all right. So I just want to give this horse another shot with a clean trip and Kendrick in here. And I think this time, if this horse doesn't break as bad, this horse is probably going to be a little bit more forward from an inside draw second post anyway.
I'm going to take a little shot with Union Trail, second off the layoff, back in against New York bred company. Has actually never been able to run on the turf against New York breds, which I thought was a little interesting. And that last race was the first time with blinkers, and he was kind of in that position where another horse rushed up to take the lead, and sometimes it can happen with that equipment change too. He got really keen, and he was like, oh, should I go too, you know? And it was kind of that weird, he wasn't really able to settle and relax as much as I would have liked. So I think second off the layoff here too, you know, Katie Davis has such strong, soft hands, getting him to relax, and hoping that he will be able to validate. I mean, obviously that was a much faster speed figure down in Florida last time. We'll see how it stacks up coming back up here, but I think the combination of second off the layoff and getting back to turf with New York breds. Yeah,
and having a little bit of recency getting back with state breds. And that race really wasn't that bad. That the horse came out of Better Bet, came back and was second, I think, in Keelan.
Yes,
yeah, you're right. 87 buyer. So horse ran well. So I have no knocks. I think the 4 horses we have pretty much cover.
Yeah, I have to give a quick mention to Dakota Country with the pedigree.
Yeah, you know, and when you look at that race, too, I mean, it was meant to be on the... I treat this horse like a first-time starter because that race got rained off or moved to the synth anyway in the debut. So, and then, you know, when you look at the family and you got Dakota Gold and Rambling Wreck in this field, ran this field. I wish they were in this field. They'd be like 1 to 5 in this field as compared to what's in this field in the family lineage anyway. So, yeah, no, plenty of pedigree to go on. And for me, that was like a first-time starter. So as a price, I'm going to be using the 5 as well.
Yep. All right, that's the 9-race field today at Belmont at the Big A, and we'll be looking forward to seeing what happens over at Churchill for Kentucky Oaks Day. Be sure to get signed up with Naira Bets for Oaks and Derby, and you can get a free bet for the Derby, free $25 Derby bet plus a $200 sign-up bonus when you use promo code Derby25. Check that out over at NairaBets.com today. What else do we have? Track stats, plenty of information. We want you to be able to have all the details. You can make your wagers, bet smarter, win bigger, bet all the action at Aqueduct with weekly track trends, stats, and betting insights. That's over at NairaBets.com as well. Middle pick 4 today with the 9-race card, Belmont at the Big A, so don't forget about that. And then this is a fun one, $30 bonus if you bet $150 each on Belmont at the Big A and Churchill Downs. Given how good the races are and all the stakes action, that should be pretty easy. And then you get $30 back, win or lose. Be sure to opt in at NairaBets.com. Cross country pick 5 features Belmont at the Big A and Oaklawn. Some stakes action from both tracks in the series as well. Starts about 4:28 Eastern with race 7 at Oaklawn Park. And then finally, America's Day at the Races. Action kicks off at 1 p.m. on FS2. It'll be Paul and I on the desk with Paul LaDuca at Oaklawn and I think Richie Migliori to kick things off in the paddock here in New York. So I'll see you over on the other desk in a few moments.
Yeah, and hopefully it won't be raining.
Dripping on this desk the whole time. Apparently, Kyle says that it's been happening like this since 1978, so I think that's probably true. So we'll see what happens there.
She threw you under the bus.
Andy leaves for 1 week, and then everything starts falling apart.
Yeah, he is the glue that keeps everything together.
He definitely is.
Kyle's got no comment. He's like, damn, you guys got me in trouble now.
Thanks for watching Talking Horses. Stay tuned. Chris Griffin will be back for reprise of Scratches and Changes.
Born in the foothills of the Adirondacks over 150 years ago, the Saratoga brand has become synonymous with quality. Carefully crafted spring water. Each stunning blue glass bottle is created with the same attention to detail and care that has been the Saratoga hallmark for generations. So open a bottle, take a sip, and savor the Saratoga experience. Saratoga, an American classic that's always in good taste. Make every day exquisite.